Welcome to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo, where we're all about mixing tried and true strategies that actually work with the magic of manifestation and the science of programming your unconscious mind so that you walk away feeling integrated, inspired, and aligned. I'm Renee Bowen, certified life and business coach, professional photographer, middle-aged wife, and mom to now 3 grown kids. I've built 2 multiple 6-figure businesses with 0 business training by digging in, learning the methods, and now I'm here to pass them all on to you. From photography and business strategies to energy healing, human design, and the basics of manifestation, we cover it all here. I'm here to help you embrace your multi-passionate brains and lean into the fastest and most efficient ways to reach your goals, whatever they may be. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, or maybe you're just here for the woo-woo, let's dive in and explore all the exciting ways to take your life, business, and self-improvement to the next level. Thanks for joining me, and get ready to be inspired. Hey guys, welcome back to Tried and True with a Dash of Woo. I'm Renee Bowen, and today we are talking about something that I see pretty much, 90 to 95% of the time in my coaching students is a fear of being seen, a fear of being visible, a fear of showing up for yourself and your business. This is especially true for photographers. I totally get it. We spend a lot of time behind the camera for a reason, right? I was in that same boat. Okay. When I first started doing videos and showing up live in my Facebook groups, it was absolutely terrifying. I am an introvert. I know that it seems like I'm not, but I am. And I had to work through this fear. So I really, really want to help you get to a place where you can do the same. Now, I'm not telling you that fear is ever going to go away. That fear of being seen and really not wanting to put yourself out there. The fear may not go away completely, but we can definitely learn how to dance with it. And that's what I'm going to teach you today. We're going to go over some strategies that I really think are extremely powerful in helping you show up, right? So we know that we live in a digital world, and we know that it's important for us to show up for our businesses. If you don't, okay, you are hindering your access to leads. You are blocking off the energy to your potential clients and bookings. And that's just going to have an adverse effect on your bank account. That's just a fact. So I don't want that to happen to you. And that's why we're going to go through these strategies today. So first of all, I'm not saying that you have to be someone totally different to show up online. Okay. Quite the contrary. I want to help you guys figure out how to show up as your authentic self at a level that is comfortable for you though, and your unconscious mind, because we hear a lot of people, educators, coaches out there talking about how you just have to show up, you have to show up, but they don't really take into account the neurodiversity or the anxiety or all of these little different pieces and facets that, make you you. So just because I post every day and show up on my stories every day doesn't mean you're going to feel super comfy doing that. And maybe you can lead up to it, right? Maybe you can take baby steps, but it's really important that if you have the desire to do things differently, it's important that you know that you totally can. Most of the time when you're gripped by this fear of showing up, what you're really afraid of is not being liked or being rejected or being seen as a failure or messing up publicly, public humiliation, right? So this is especially true for introverts, empaths, highly sensitive people. Typically, the more sensitive you are, the more fearful you are of being seen as well. When you have this fear of being seen, you might believe that you will come off as too salesy or inauthentic. You might worry that you won't look or you won't sound good enough for someone else's standards, okay? An imaginary, made up someone else's standards, or it could be someone in your past who was extremely judgy with you. That's another thing. You can get into a cycle of self-doubt and questioning that leads to this analysis paralysis. And so you just get stuck instead of doing anything. You might wonder if you're good enough to talk about the topic, that you are an expert in, or show up as the expert and the professional in your field. There's a lot more, okay? But that's just a few of them that I see a lot. But just because you think it or feel it doesn't mean it's true, okay? Feelings are not facts. And it's not about eradicating the fear. Like I said, it's about managing it and learning to dance with it, essentially doing it scared, right? That's one of my favorite sayings. I have a sticky note that says, do it scared, do it anyway. And a lot of coaches will talk about various ways to do this, but I want to approach it from a slightly different perspective with you guys. So you all know that I'm a huge believer in all things unconscious mind, and that is really, I believe it's the key to all of our roadblocks and ultimately our success once we figure out how to rewire it. And a huge part of this is learning how to redirect our feelings. So how we feel is how we show up in our business, right? We have tons of thoughts and emotions that just pop in, okay? They just sink in and then they morph into these feelings. And then they get into our physiology, into our body, and they become habits if we allow them to, okay? But how we allow it is entirely up to us. We don't have to just accept these random feelings as facts. So the first strategy is recognizing and paying attention to those fear-based feelings, emotions, and thoughts, noticing them, okay? So a good exercise to do often, daily if you can, is to write down what comes up for you when you think about showing up on your stories. Let's just talk about Instagram stories for a second, with your face or going live, okay? What kind of stuff comes up for you? Write it down without judgment. Just really look at it. You're just an observer of it. You're not judging yourself for it, because when we notice these things, we take some of that power away. We take its power away, and we're not running from it any longer. And so the more we run from it and avoid it, the worse and bigger it gets. That's the idea. And that is actually true of anxiety as well. So you can definitely dive into the why and the how of like where all that stuff comes from, like where it originated. And I highly suggest that you do, either with journaling exercises or with a therapist or with a coach. This is some of the stuff that I do a lot with my coaching students, because we really can't show up for ourselves and our business if we're not dealing with that stuff that's at the heart of all of it, right? Whether it's shame, guilt, trauma, whatever. So definitely dive into it. But the first step is really noticing it. The second strategy is actually to use this fear of visibility as an opportunity to heal. Hear me out on this. So many of us experience this fear of visibility because, we weren't seen or heard as kids or teenagers for all kinds of reasons. I don't think any of us are really immune to trauma. It could be a big T or a little t, but something got in there, right? And so we had to learn that being ourselves wasn't really ideal. We learned that we had to be somebody other than ourselves to kind of survive. Like there's a lot of things that we could have just sucked into our unconscious minds as we were learning and growing, and especially as adolescents. So your first step to reclaiming your own power is to recognize that that's just really no longer true for you. So what you once adopted as a coping mechanism, it's no longer serving you. Allowing yourself to get visible now is part of your healing process. You can be free and clear of it. It literally can be as easy as a decision. Okay. The decision is what starts the process. So that's really, really, really impactful. If you look at it instead of a hindrance and you reframe it as an opportunity, it completely changes the perspective. The third strategy I would suggest is to take baby steps. Okay. But take them. Don't let yourself off the hook. Put it on the calendar. If you have to just put it on there and say, post a story with my face on it, or talk to my clients in my stories today, go live on Instagram, whatever it is, put it on the calendar and then prep for it. All right. Do the daily work that you need to do to actually show up. And the night before, make sure you set yourself up for success to actually do it. Go to bed early, go in with a plan, take care of yourself, do a nice skincare routine, whatever you've got to do. But there are things that you can do to help support that decision. The main takeaway here is that you do need to prep for it. Okay. That's the main thing I want you to hear. Some of the strategies I'm about to go into can actually be part of that prep, but just like a pro athlete practices daily to be amazing, you have to look at this process in a similar way. You can't expect to nail it the first time. Okay. You're just not. And you can't expect to be a pro without putting in the practice time and time again. Just think back to, especially if you're a photographer, like, I don't know about you, but like when I look back at the beginning of my photography career and the beginning of, when I first started really taking it seriously as a senior portrait photographer, the nifty 50 lens that I got, right? How drastically different my work, how it changed, how it became a step up, right? And I remember feeling so inspired and excited that I could actually do that. And now when I look back on that work, I'm like, oh my gosh, right? Like but I've progressed. You can't compare your beginning to someone else's middle. I say that a lot. You'll hear me say that a lot, but we live in a world of nothing but comparison. So you have to take charge of that and recognize that your brain is just going to go on that tangent if you allow it. Know that baby steps are going to get you there, and small steps make really, really big changes over time. So understand that you are going to mess up, and know that the more you do it, the more you show up, the easier that gets, and the more that muscle gets exercised. The fourth strategy is to reassure yourself that it's safe to be seen. Okay. Remember that you're in control of what you share. You're in control of what you think and feel too, right? Being visible doesn't mean sharing 100% of yourself and your life. If that's not comfortable to you, don't do that, right? No one is saying that you got to be out here telling the world about your divorce and, all the family trouble that you have, or the really hard time that you went through when you lost your job, or whatever it is, unless that's something you want to do, right? Brene Brown says this in Rising Strong, to share from the scar and not the wound, right? So if it's something that you're in the middle of, you might not really be ready to share that. It may be too raw. It might have to be, it's too at the surface, right? Wait until it's healed. Wait until there is a different perspective that you can have. And there's a learning that happens from everything that we go through, and then talk about it. And that could be part of your story, part of the storytelling experience as well. Because as we know, storytelling is really impactful, especially when you show up for your business, because that gives people another point of reference with you. It's another touch point. And that's really kind of what we're doing here, is creating all these touch points so that your clients really feel like they know you and that they can trust you. That's the whole idea. But you have to reassure yourself that it's safe to be seen. Okay. Your unconscious is just operating from safety. It thinks that this is something very unsafe because it's never been done before. If you've never been on camera before, if you've never, created a story or done a live or done any of this stuff where you're showing up like I am right now talking, your unconscious is going to feel really, really, really scared because it thinks that it is a danger. It thinks that, its job is just to keep you alive and safe. All right. So just break it down and realize that it's normal. It's natural for your unconscious to do that. Look at it, say thank you. I appreciate you for keeping me safe and alive, but this is okay. We're safe. We're good. So the next one is kind of tied into that. The fifth strategy is to have a belief in your vision more than your fear. Okay. Many of us started our businesses to do what we love and to make a positive impact in the lives of our clients, obviously. So I want you to reconnect with your why for starting your business. Okay. When you feel scared, I want you to go back to why you started. Why did you originally want to start doing this? What change do you want to make in the world? What do you want to be known for? What's going to be your legacy? Okay. How are your clients' lives changing just by working with you? And what do you believe is really possible for the future of your business? How can you be visible, right? How can you see that being visible is going to achieve what is possible, right? So we often make our fears way bigger than our dreams because it's safe, because there's no work involved. There's no work involved in staying safe. Like, you don't have to do anything. You just have to keep staying the same. It's safe. It's comfortable, but it's not where you really want to be 9 times out of 10, right? So we have to switch that. We have to flip the switch and believe in our dream and our vision more than we allow our fear to be in control. And that really does come down to working with your unconscious, regulating your nervous system, because when you have a regulated nervous system, you can do anything. And again, we're going to do a whole podcast on just regulating your nervous system because that's how important it is. And I do want to dive deeper into the strategies for how to do that. Because there's a lot of different ways, and what works for one person may not work for you. So I want to give you a bunch of options, but I highly, highly, highly suggest that you work with your unconscious and stop allowing it to take the lead. The 6th strategy is to remind yourself that you are valuable no matter what. Okay, so here's the thing. You're valuable just because you're alive. You're valuable whether or not somebody criticizes or judges you. You're valuable if nobody likes your posts, if nobody listens to your live, and even if nobody signs up to be your client. Okay, the key is to not rely on your external results to give you validation. All right, I really want you to hear that. When you practice detachment from these external results in your business, you feel solid and secure no matter what. So this is extremely important for the staying power of your business. It is imperative that you get a handle on your value and your worth. Okay. You have to dive deeper into it. Yes, again, you can look at where it all comes from and heal those pieces of a trauma, perhaps. But really what it comes down to is you can just decide. You can just decide that these external validations are not going to run your life, right? That you are valuable no matter what. You're valuable because you're you, and there's no one else like you. Okay, number 7 is what arises when you do the work in the previous strategies. It's to trust that you can handle whatever arises. Okay. So when you've done all of this other work, then you really get to this place of confidence. Like, I can handle what comes through, and that things are really happening for me as an opportunity to work through something or to heal or to learn. Many of our fears just in general are just unfounded. Okay. I am definitely guilty of this. Where are all my anxiety peeps? That's definitely me. I am wired for anxiety. I know that about my brain. We tend to imagine the worst case scenarios while there's actually no evidence that that's actually going to happen, right? I call this future fucking. And it's 100% counterproductive, because worrying about something is like praying for it to happen. And I have to remind myself of that a lot, especially when it comes to my kids. I mean, those of us with grown kids, even, as soon as my kids, this really happened to me. The minute I gave birth, I became like a ball of anxiety about everything that could possibly go wrong in life, because all of a sudden it would really matter if something happened to them. Like, before that, I was kind of a free spirit. I had some anxiety, but it was nothing nothing like after I had kids, because all of a sudden something could really hurt me. And I just worried so much about them. One of them more than the others. I'm not going to lie, but we all have that kid, right? And so this has been like a lifelong thing. And especially for me, as my kids got through adolescence, it became even harder. They're driving cars and they're out there in the world, like just the possibilities of all the pain that could happen to them. It just seemed too much. Okay. So I really had to remind myself of that. Like, okay, worrying about them it's basically just like asking, let it happen, because my thoughts are like, they were just so entrenched in this worst case scenario. So I really do believe, and here's the little woo-woo part, that the universe will give you what you're putting out energetically. Okay. So when you allow yourself to worry, you're not really in alignment with your higher self, like what your higher self really wants for you. So for me, I have to remind myself of that and consider like the upside and trust myself to be able to manage whatever comes up. Like, I'm good, I'm taken care of, all is well is something I repeat to myself a lot. Like, even as I'm falling asleep at night, if I find that my brain will start to think about something the next day that I have to do, I have to just stop and say, all is well. And it just sort of, encompasses that feeling of, it's all good. It's going to work out. It's going to work out the way it's supposed to work out. And I don't want to be putting out this constant fear. I don't want to be putting that out. So deep breath, regulate the nervous system, and get back into this power, internal power. But really trusting that you can handle whatever arises. Big strategy in showing up for yourself. I want to tell you guys about Flowdesk. If you don't already know, first of all, I feel like everybody uses Flowdesk, right? It's such an amazing email client, like so much better than the other ones. I won't mention the other ones that I was using before I switched to Flowdesk, but let's just say it's exponentially better. It's prettier, it's more functional, it's easier. Like, I can't even list all the ways I love Flowdesk. I want you to try it for 50% off, and you can use this link to grab it, renee.io/Flowdesk. So it's RENEE.io/FLODESK. Flowdesk is really revolutionizing, I think, the email game. And first of all, if you're not emailing your clients on a regular basis, you need to start. And this is a really, really great tool to use. It's not going to cost you a fortune. It's not going to be clunky. It's not going to be something that makes you feel overwhelmed. I promise you, you can do this. And Flowdesk is going to help you. So head over there to renee.io/Flowdesk and get it for 50% off. We've got two more. The eighth one is keeping your perspective. Okay, so it's really common to feel paralyzed with fear about what others will think of you. I've definitely gone through periods about this. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes it still comes up, whether they're complete strangers or somebody on Instagram that you know, or maybe it's your friends and family. Maybe there's some super judgy people in your life. And it's important to remember that every single person on this planet has their own shit going on. Okay. Like, they're likely not thinking about you day in and day out as much as you think they are. And even if they are, so what? Right? Are you really going to let somebody else's opinion stand in your way of achieving what you want? I really hope not, because you've got so much to give, right? And that is really, at the end of the day, allowing someone else's opinion and overthinking about their opinion. Because like I said, they likely are not even thinking about you. They likely do not care. And I hear this a lot from senior photographers, especially because they're like, oh, the teenagers, that I work with, they don't want to know what I'm doing on the daily. They don't care that I had a salad for lunch, and they don't care, this, where I went on vacation, all of other stuff. And I I beg to differ. Okay. First of all, if we look at it from this different perspective, and especially from a teenager point of view, because again, we want to get into the mind of our Gen Z clients and to understand them so that we can, market to them better and understand them as people and give them a better more meaningful experience with us. If you really think about it, they need like upwards of 30 touch points with us before they decide to hire us. So every one of these little things is a touch point, every one of them. A story slide that they see of yours, a reel, a TikTok, especially because that's where they mostly are. And you also have to realize, because another thing I hear from photographers, just as a side note, is that they feel like they're just putting all this content out and nobody wants to see so much of me. Okay, first of all, your clients are not seeing all of that. It's very rare that the same person is going to see your TikTok, your Instagram, and your Facebook. Okay. It's probably like they might see a bit of it, especially with how saturated social media is right now. So you kind of do have to be everywhere, but that's why I highly suggest repurposing your content. Whole other discussion. We'll do a whole podcast on that. And I have a course that even teaches you how to do it. But what I'm talking about right now is that doesn't matter. Okay. You just think that people are like, oh my God, they don't want to see all of my stuff. That's not true. First of all, people actually are interested in what you do. I can't tell you how many times I have people show up to the studio, because a lot of times I don't meet my clients until the day they show up for their session. And because we've done a lot of prep work, digitally, text or phone call, and I don't do in-person consults. And so when they show up to the studio for hair and makeup, that's usually the first time that I've met them. And I can't tell you how many times we just fall into this instant rapport because they feel like they know me. And, they'll say something like, oh my gosh, I'm a Virgo too. Or, I love your cats. Or they'll mention something about a vacation that I just went on. They're paying attention. Okay. And that is what matters, is a rapport. You are literally like it does the work for you, right? When you show up for yourself and your business and you show up authentically as yourself and you share what you're comfortable sharing, you're bridging that gap. And so it really cuts down the work on trying to create rapport with a client that you're about to go point a camera in front of for 2+ hours. I want them to show up ready. I want them to show up excited and at least be able to sort of trust me. And then within the first few minutes of shooting, we're there, right? That's what I want. That's why I want you to get better at showing up for yourself. Okay. Last strategy is to gather evidence to show that what you fear is not true. Okay. So it's a proven scientific fact that we're going to find proof of whatever we're looking for and whatever we believe. Look around you for evidence that your fear has no merit. All right. So for example, let's say that you come up with a really killer caption for a post with a great testimonial from a client. And all of a sudden your inner saboteur is like, you can't say this. It makes no sense. Nobody cares. All of those little things. People aren't going to believe you, blah, 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 blah. To disprove this fear, you can look at all the reviews that you've collected. I like to have them in a Google Doc so that I can just go through them when I'm feeling, a little bit down or like nobody's listening. Look at your reviews, and really let yourself take in and receive all the amazing feedback that you've heard. If you haven't been in business for a long time and you haven't collected a lot of reviews yet, or you don't have that sort of proof yet, you can look back to the things that the people closest to you have said about you. Okay. Allow yourself to redirect those thoughts to the good things that you've heard about yourself. Okay. Because your inner saboteur is going to try and latch on. Because again, this isn't safe. It's your unconscious mind. It's just your unconscious mind going, this isn't safe. Come back to safety. We don't need to change. We don't need to do any work. We can just sit right here in front of Netflix and we can just stay here. Don't do that. That's not safe. We're going to die. That's literally what your unconscious is telling you. But that's not the case. So it's up to you to break the pattern, physically look, like literally, if you have to envision your unconscious mind, I want you to envision it as 7-year-old you, because you have to talk to it like a 7-year-old. It only thinks in very specific terms. Okay. You can't tell it, like you can't, if you're going to talk to your unconscious mind, it doesn't hear negatives. It only hears the positive. So if you're like constantly telling yourself, don't be afraid, all it's hearing is be afraid. So you have to learn how to speak to it in ways that are more appropriate. When I was raising my kids, one of my kids, who shall be unnamed, was very oppositional as a kid. And so I had to parent him a little bit differently than I had to parent the other ones. And if I told him, don't run or don't do this, he was going to exactly do that thing. So I had to learn very quickly that I needed to put things in the positive. And that's the same thing with your unconscious mind. Okay. So I want you to talk to your unconscious mind in very positive terms and very simple terms, like you would to a 7-year-old. And if it helps you to envision it as you yourself as a 7-year-old, do that. Okay. So I lied. There's one more strategy to make it an even number 10, because I do love a good even number, is to make a mantra. All right. That you can read, before you go into sessions, before you go into sales sessions, whatever it is, or you can just post it up where you can see it every day, read it every morning, or better yet, before you go to sleep at night. Because again, our nighttime routine is really, really big. Mel Robbins talks about this a lot. You got to create a good nighttime routine. And for me, that means I don't want to be on my phone until I drop into bed and, I'm just consuming all of this content, which a lot of it probably isn't very positive, right? I want to take control of that. I want to read my mantra. I want to, and some people are more auditory learners, so it's better for them to listen to it. So you can record yourself saying your mantra. My husband does this. He likes to do it in the morning. Sometimes he does it at night too. But he just records it and he listens to it just, on a loop before he wakes up. And it really helps him set the tone for his day. For me, I learn by writing and reading. I don't know what it is, but I definitely listen to a lot of hypnosis, and I listen to meditations and things like that as well. But for me, I just get more impact reading it. And I guess I read it in my own mind, like I say it to myself. And for some reason, that really works for me. So whatever works for you, find that system and put it into practice. Okay. The more that you do it, the more you practice and read it, the more it gets in your unconscious. It's also good for subliminal. Like there's a lot of subliminal work that you can do with this as well. You want to get really woo-woo, you can write it out and slip that piece of paper under your bed where you sleep, and just know that it's going to soak into you. Again, this podcast is called Tried and True with a Dash of Woo, because I'm going to tell you both sides. There are some really good proven strategies, and there's some super woo-woo stuff that I still do. And that's one of them. So I encourage you to come up with your own mantra. And again, you want to do this in terms of how your unconscious absorbs information. Remember what I just said, it doesn't hear negatives. So you want to put it in the present and act as if it's already happened. So I am a problem solver. I'm a quick thinker. I'm a good friend. I'm so grateful for the life that I have. I'm so thankful for the relationships I have. I'm so grateful for the business I have. I'm so incredibly generous with my time and my money. I'm grateful for the fact that I made 6 figures already. Like really act as if it's already happened. Put that into practice. Put it into a mantra. It doesn't have to be long, but read it or listen to it every single day. Okay, I know that was a lot of information, but I hope that it resonated with you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know. Hit me up on social, Renee Bowen on Instagram. DM me or take a screenshot of this episode with your thoughts. I'd love to hear your feedback on this or anything triggering that came up for you, so we can continue the conversation. And as always, if anything really hit and really resonated and you want to hear more about it, let me know, because I'm always looking for ideas for future episodes. So have a great day. I'll talk to you guys soon.